What are the wetlands of India? What are the wetlands of India? Discuss their significance and their conservation. What are the wetlands of India? Discuss their significance and their conservation. Okay, now see, wetlands, so maybe like an introduction I'm explaining. So wetlands ka, there are 3-4 important properties. Wetlands are, these are more like lakes and swamps. Lakes and swamps and lagoons. Lakes, they're like lakes, like swamps and lagoons. These are seasonally, or they are permanently, okay, saturated with water. They are permanently or they are seasonally saturated with water. They can also be submerged underwater. Wetlands में there are more of anaerobic processes. There are more of anaerobic processes, which means in the absence of oxygen. In the absence of oxygen, then wetlands also are, okay, they have a hydric vegetation and hydric बोल लो या फिर, okay, hydromorphic soils. Okay, they will have hydric vegetations or hydromorphic soils. So what are wetlands? Wetlands are like lakes, like swamps, like lagoons, seasonally or permanently saturated with water. They can also be submerged. Okay, they have anaerobic processes, mostly in the absence of oxygen. They have hydric vegetation, which can survive in those type of submerged conditions, and they have got hydromorphic soils. Okay, these swamps, they have got they generally are areas of very high productivity, very high ecological productivity. Okay, ecological productivity. And an important part of this is that most of these are ecotones. Ecotones, they are like transition zones. They are like transition zones. So on one side, okay, so if this is the land and what, okay, say, these are the terrestrial ecosystems. These are the terrestrial ecosystems. These are the marine ecosystems. These are the swamps. These are the lakes. These are the coastal areas. They also are the estuaries. Okay, and these are the transition zones. And then, therefore, they are ecotones. Okay? So this is good enough to explain what are the wetlands. So I think if you know this much, you understand what wetlands are and what is, okay, the meaning of, okay. Now wetlands India में कहाँ पर हैं? So if you know about the recent modifications, I would suggest that wetlands of India can be mapped. Anybody knows how many wetlands we have in India now? I think 42 of them. Yes, 42 of them. अभी notification आया. I think Feb 2021 में There has been notification 42. Try to plot down at least 7, 8 to 10 of them. Shouldn't be a difficult one. Okay, so a difficult list nahi hoga. So we have Sundarbans, the largest one. Sundarbans, Chilka Lake. Chilka Lake. We have Vembanad Lake, Ashtamudi Lagoon, Sambar Lake. Sambar Lake. We have Lok Tuck Lake. We have Kolleru. Kolleru. Okay. You can add Nal Sarovar. Nal Sarovar. Kyola Deo. Ghana. Ghana in Rajasthan. We have Pong Dam. The Nangal. Govind Sagar Lake. Nangal Govind Sagar Lake. Okay. We also have Bhoj Lake. So I would like you to plot this in your map. If they ask you something on wetlands, I would expect that you please plot them. It shouldn't be a problem at all. एक बार आपने पढ़ लिया है. Once you know these, plot them. So we have somewhere here Pong Dam, Nal Sarovar near this one, Bhoj Lake is here. This is Loktak, okay, Chilka Lake, Kolleru Lake. We have Ashtamudi, Vembanad. In Himachal Pradesh, we have Renuka Lake. Okay, Renuka Lake. In Rajasthan, near Agra. Okay, Bharatpur. Okay, Sambar Lake, maybe somewhere here. So you have the names with you. This is Pong Dam. This is Renuka. Renuka is the smallest wetland of India. This is Loktak Lake. This is Chilka. This is Kolleru. Vembanad. This is Ashtamudi. This is Bhoj, if you say so. This is Nal Sarovar, Gujarat. Nal Sarovar. This is Sambar Lake. This Bharatpur, Kyola Deo. Kyola Deo. We have couple of lakes of Ladakh also. Ladakh में TSOKAR. ये recently add हुआ है. Okay. So 4-5 names. What are the wetlands of India? What are the wetlands of India? It'll be nice if you mention where they are. Srinagar के पास में यहाँ पर. Wular Lake is also, yes. So whatever 6-7 names you can remember, put them here. Put them here. Okay. So if you discuss that in India, there are three types of wetlands. There are three types of wetlands. What are they? One are the playa lakes as wetlands. We also have high altitude lakes, high altitude lakes. We have freshwater lakes, and we have the coastal lagoons. Sorry, 4 types, not 3 types. We have 4 types of wetlands in India. So there are 4 types of wetlands in India. We have got playa lakes like Sambar Lake, Playa Lake, Kyola Deo, Ghana is a playa lake. We have high altitude lakes like in Ladakh, Okay, brackish water, and freshwater lakes like Pong Dam is a freshwater lake. Loktak, okay, is a freshwater lake. Kolleru is a freshwater lake, and coastal lagoons like Chilka, like Vembanad, like Ashtamodi, 4 types. So if you have heard this once, you not have a problem in managing these type of questions. Okay, if you एक बार सुन लिया आपने, what are wetlands, what are the names of the wetlands, and how do you, what are the types of wetlands in India? Okay. Now, importance of wetlands. Importance of wetlands. Now, that's very similar to what we discussed for the coastal areas, but wetlands may coast plus the landward also comes in. The importance of wetlands, again, remember high productivity zones. Okay, they are complex nutrient cycling zones. They are important water sinks. They're important water sinks. Okay, they're very important for flood management. Very important for flood management. About Bangalore, right? One reasons why Bangalore has so many floods, Chennai has floods, okay, is because water is not percolating down because the natural lakes, they have been compromised. Okay, the natural lakes which would have act as water sinks has been compromised. So flood management, where they can be locations where water percolates down. So this is important. They're important for recharging of groundwater. Important for recharging of groundwater. Okay, the groundwater sustenance. Okay, then wetlands. Okay, are also carbon sinks. They're also carbon sinks because of the biodiversity they have. Okay, but they also are source of greenhouse gases. Wherever we have got wetlands, the source of methane also. But they also absorb. Correct. So carbon sinks we have, they also are carbon source. But in natural conditions, they can balance this. But when you destroy the vegetation, when you impact the biodiversity, then they primarily become the source. Okay, so it's a two-way thing. They absorb some and they release some. Yes. Okay, release some. Now, apart from this, they're also important for purification of water. जो coastal वाले हैं, the ones along the coast, such as the mangroves, mangroves have the ability of absorbing nitrogen compounds. They can absorb heavy metals like cadmium, like arsenic. They can absorb. They're part of coastal management related to absorption of the pollutants and therefore controlling of the pollution. Okay, then they're part of coastal protection. We always use this word. They are the bulwark. They're like they're like the fence, the bulwark of the coasts. The bulwark of the coasts. So you talk about protection. From tsunamis, protection from sea level rise, protection of coastal erosion, and also protection from cyclones. Okay, they act as wave breakers. They help in groundwater recharging, absorption of heavy metals, absorption of nitrogenous compounds, the coastal protection bulwark, yes, bioshields, and so on. So can you describe this in your answer? And finally, the conservation and management. So there is this coastal regulation zonation. We have the Ramsar Convention 19 71. 71. We also have the wetland regulations. Wetland regulations. Okay. So all of this one short paragraph, how they're important and therefore they have to be managed. Go back to the question here. What are wetlands? What are wetlands of India? Discuss their significance and their conservation. Now, these topics are linked to one another, okay? Environment geography, biogeography and oceanography topics. ये सब linked हैं. Wetlands, coastal regulations, what are the mangrove forests of India? Okay, this is like a set answer more or less. You shouldn't have too much of problem dealing with these. Let's look up another question. Now, I think they might ask you a question on tides. Tides is something they have not been asking for some time. Okay, so something on tides and tide theories. Okay, let me teach this to you in some convenient format. Okay, tides. Then I'll give you the question. Okay, tides. Okay, now see, fundamentally there are three theories of tides. One is the equilibrium theory of tides. We have the progressive wave theory of tides, and we have the stationary wave theory of tides. Progressive wave theory of tides and the stationary wave. Equilibrium theory was given by Newton, and it was also modified and supported by Laplace in some way. Progressive wave theory was given by Airy and Wavell. Wavell is also called as the canal theory. Airy and Wavell's canal theory. And stationary wave theory was given by Harris. So I'm just giving you the table for your quick reference. Help you a bit of revision here. Okay? So this is one. Now, what is the fundamental difference between the three? So equilibrium theory says that tides are because of the gravitational pull of sun and moon plus the moon's revolution around Earth. Moon's gravity plus Earth's rotation, Earth is rotating, and because of Earth's rotation, there are forces, okay, but tides developing in the southern hemisphere to move west and northwards. Okay, and then we have tides, and tides because of tidal waves interacting. Now, what does Harris tells us? Harris says the tides are not related to moon, not related to the gravitational pull of sun and moon. Okay, tides are a local phenomena. Tides are because of the configuration of the coasts and the seas. Okay, tides are not because of sun and moon. Tides are because of the local conditions, the configuration, the shape of the coast, the coastline, the depth of the water in that sea. That is more important. And how are tides formed? As it says, the tides are because of water circulating and spinning in the seas and the Coriolis and the Coriolis force associated. Okay. The tides are because of the water spinning in the seas, the water spinning in the water bodies, and the Coriolis force associated. So if you compare the three, okay, Newton's theory, this is also a global theory. This is tides as a global phenomena. This also says tides as global phenomena. Whereas, okay, this theory says that it is more of a local phenomena. More of a local phenomena. Can I move on, all of you? Are you all able to write down as I speak? लिख पा रहे हो आप लोग? As I speak? Okay. Now, what is the merit of the theories? Okay, what is the most important aspect? The merit kya hai? See, if you know these 4-5 points, na, okay, you can always manage some answer in 1.5-2 pages. Mein. So, if I talk about the merit, what is the advantage? The advantage is that Newton's theory can explain, okay, they can explain diurnal, it can explain a semi-diurnal tides, and it can also explain spring tides and neap tides. Diurnal is the daily cycle, you know, every 12 hours, every 24 hours. The diurnal tides, the semi-diurnal tides, the spring tides and the neap tides can be explained by this theory. The merit of this theory, ये जो theory है, इसका merit ये है that this can explain the variations of tides in the same longitude, and the complexities of wave interaction creating variety of derived tides. So imagine a water, okay, as the tidal wave goes and strikes the coast, then the wave comes back because of reflection from the coast, and that interaction can create a variety of tides. Okay, so there is no one pattern like Newton talks about. Okay, so this includes the role of coasts also. There is the role of the coastal line in influencing the tides of a region. Okay. Now come to the merit of this one, stationary wave. Now the merit here is that it sees tides, the entirely local phenomena. It accounts for the ocean depth. It is a better interpretation of the local tides. It can explain the variations better. The variations in the tides better. And not just that, it can also explain the tides in the open seas better. So it sees tides as water rocking. Okay. This is about tides associated with water rocking, ROCKING, or oscillations of water, in terms of oscillations of water. Now, what are the problems here? So, of the three tides, I think the simplest one is this one. Simplest one. This has been the most popular one, the equilibrium tides. Whereas the progressive wave, this has relatively more errors. The assumptions that it makes, it has relatively more errors, okay, but a good insight, on how waves can interact. Okay. Now the problem with this theory is that it entirely ignores the role of sun and moon. It almost entirely ignores the role of sun and moon, and it cannot explain the spring tides. It can't explain the neap tides, and so on. So if you have this much of content, I believe you can write at least one short answer on the origin of the tides. Okay? Now, I'll give you a question. So I'll give you a question and see if you can attempt it. Did you all write down the points here? The points be clear? Who gave the concept? What are the basics of tides? The merits, what it can explain, and what are some demerits or the critical aspects. Okay? Okay. So, and you can always draw diagrams in this, please. Okay. So, maybe I will give you the diagrams also, what you can draw. अगर न्यूटन का थ्योरी पूछेगा और इक्विलिब्रियम थ्योरी पूछेगा, so we have the earth here. Okay, you can always show a high tide, neap tide, high tide, neap tide, show the moon. Okay, show the moon attracting. Okay, so these are what's called as spring tides, and these are called as the neap tide. You can draw a simplistic one of this kind. Okay, here you can show the Atlantic southern waters of Atlantic Ocean, and say that so this is Antarctica. So this is the a zone of origin of tides, and from here what happens is the tides are moving west and northwards. Okay, so the tides in this theory, the origin is the southern waters. The origin of tide is the southern waters, and from here the tidal waves, they move north and westwards related to Earth's spin. So this diagram is for the progressive wave theory, and for this one the common diagram we generally draw is the ocean basin and how the water can rock. Okay, so these are called as amphidromic points. This is the mean sea level. So on this is the high tide, and coming down is the low tides. What rises up, water is rising and water is falling because of oscillations. Okay, so ये तीन diagram याद रखो, draw it, you are done. The question I can anticipate in your textbook, please look up Page 315. Look at page 315, 315. Okay. So these are the three theories. So look at page number 315, 315. Airy and Wewell, we have put them together. Equilibrium theory and the dynamic theory को same रखना. We have Newton and Laplace. Progressive wave, also called as canal theory, का same concept है more or less. Okay, so Wewell and Airy, put them together, and stationary wave को अलग रखो by Harris. Then you have to know this diagram. Page number 318. Okay, so this southern waters is where the tides originate and they start moving towards north and towards the west. This theory says they can move north and westwards. And then whatever we have, something here you can see, something called as derived waves, forced waves. So it talks about wave interaction. इस वाले part में है. And stationary wave theory is somewhere here. It talks about this. Okay, rocking of waters, oscillations of the water. This is the nodal point, amphidromic point 1, amphidromic point 2, and the importance is, okay, is here. The oscillations. The oscillation systems are affected by the depth of the water, configuration, and the length of the ocean basin, and the rotational speed of Earth. So Coriolis force plays a very important role. So now, a conclusion में आप क्या लिखोगे? Talk about conclusion. Any conclusion on tides will be that tides are complex phenomena. Complex phenomena that the earliest and the most popular and also the simplest theory is that of Newton. But modifications by the progressive wave theory and modifications by the stationary wave theory have added to better understanding, have added to our better understanding. Okay. In reality, all the three theories, they can explain, some aspects, but not, okay, all, not all components and types of tides. All the components of tides and all the types of tides, they are not explained by any one theory. So all the three, therefore to understand the tides, all the three should be taken together. All three should be taken together. There is some merit in each of the theories. You can't ignore one for the other. Although the more modern one, the more acceptable one is the stationary wave theory. But the stationary wave theory cannot explain the spring tides, the neap tides. They cannot explain the origin of the diurnal, semi-diurnal regularity. So you can have this as the common conclusion in your tides answer.